Okay, I think I have enough time to knock this out real quick before I have to take Kiri off to the vet. But I saw you the other day uh, trying to figure out scrapping. And we're going to take a lot of these and we're just going to spread this out. And you worked at it for a few minutes before you finally said screw it. So, scrapping is really kind of a pain in the butt. Um, and it's going to require either another piece of paper or you're going to have to open up a spreadsheet to keep track of all this. Because everything that you scrap, you don't get necessarily in return. Okay, so those are Australian, not New Zealand. Um, for every allied unit that you send to the scrap pile, and if you choose to send it to the scrap pile, I think you already knew, you right click and scrap for replacement points. Um, just like with regular replacement points, every unit that is scrapped, you only get replacement points for that nationality. So, for example, if you scrap, say, like the 4th Indian Division, not that I'm saying that you should do that, but you would only get 4 replacement points in return. Australians only get replacement points for Australians, New Zealanders for New Zealanders, South Africans for South Africans, so on and so forth. So, the one that I had seen, you took this, and there's two, before I get to this, there's 2 kinds of replacement points, as you know. There's ones for armor, and there's ones for non-armor. So anything that is non-armor that you scrap, you get non-armor points for. So you were looking at this to scrap. This is a unit that is 1/2 a regimental equivalent. The Allies get 1/2 of a replacement point in return for scrapping the unit. So if you were to scrap this one, it would be worth 1/4 of a replacement point. And on average, when I scrap Italian units, that's about what I get, because rules and stuff. So if you were to scrap a division, you would get 1/2 replacement points. In this case, non-armor. In this case, armor. So just for giggles, and down here, they only deal in whole numbers. So 1/4 of a replacement point is not really going to do much for you. And I'm not sure the static AA up here, I'm not sure how that would translate. I may have to study the rules a little later. And I don't think you can't scrap air units. So, as we look around here, let's say you were to scrap these 2 battalions, and each one gets 1/4, so you would get 1/2 a point for scrapping those. And then you would have to figure out somewhere else that you could scrap, because these are your only 2 armored units left. So if you were scrapping points to try and get this one functional again, you would have to scrap this. In fact, it may even be easier to open up the Allied chart here. And this is what, this 1st division? Start swapping out the component parts. And let's see, this is 7th Australian, Pull the 7th Australian in here. I think that's the... Because then you could refine it a little bit more. If you were to scrap this Indian brigade, you would get half of a replacement point. Again, half of an Indian replacement point. But in the end, it may make more sense for you to just go through and that's New Zealander, Australia. And I'm sure that Australia is probably a big fan of yours by now. I mean, look at all these Australians that have just been... This is like the First World War all over again. I mean, look at this casualty rate. Methinks that that is it. Let's clear that up a little bit. So, to get your infantry divisions back up and running, you would need to have 4 Australian replacement points, 1 each for each of the brigades, 1 for the headquarters. So, you could theoretically scrap 4 of these, or scrap 3 of these and 1 headquarters, but that means you would never be able to rebuild that division if the headquarters is gone. But there will come a time when you will start getting more and more replacements. That's one thing the British were bound and determined to keep North Africa front open, and they will commit more and more troops to the area, whereas the Germans, they were more focused on the Soviet Union and really didn't pay much attention to Africa at all. They saw it as a diversion of forces, diversion of attention, diversion of focus. So for the Germans, for the Axis, it's much harder to rebuild my forces, and it's going to be a long time before you see those panzer divisions again. But, you know, like I said, just remember, if you scrap the support groups, you can't rebuild your tanks. And this is really weird. Yep, oh, there's one right there. So if you could figure out, I mean, what do you got coming up this next turn? Oh, that's not in the right rule book. Let's look at Western Desert here. Open with Foxit Reader because it gets along with this a lot better. It's what, July 1st, 1941. So you're getting another New Zealand and a British non-arm. But then August, and the reason that it's taking so long to get armor replaced, because it takes a long time to build the things. But every month you get replacements. So if you want, you can try and hold out and let see here, September, you finally get an armor replacement point. But you're getting a lot of trucks in October. But you're definitely, you get a lot more replacement points than I do, that's for sure. But I don't want you to think, I just wanted to explain how to scrap units real quick. But I don't want you to think for a moment that I have any illusions of using the Italians to take your LLMA line out. Although right now I could probably do it. can probably do it quite easily. But I don't know. My supply lines are so out of whack, and I just realized that I forgot to delete a supply uh, depot. So when you start your turn at any time, just delete this one right here at Gazawa. I completely forgot to do it, and I was counting out regimental equivalent specifically, so I would only use one. But I'm getting so far ahead of my supply that right now I'm going to have to sit and wait for it, which is why there was no exploitation, why I did not advance to Matru here. But like I said, I just wanted to go over scrapping real quick, and there is a victory point penalty for doing so, and I've got huge penalties coming up. Um, but you're defending your coastline here in Egypt, but you've still got this town, and Cairo's still wide open. I could land there, theoretically. Of course, I could land anywhere. But right now, I'm just messing with you. I'm just trying to make you paranoid. Um, anyway, I will talk to you later. I gotta get Curie ready.